And good morning. This is Art Waves, and I'm your host, Michael Shields, here for the KONK Broadcasting Network. My very special guest today is Yuyutsu Sharma, who is going to be giving us a preview of his presentation tonight at the UU. That's the Universalist Unitarian or Unitarian Universalist. Either way, it's going to be a grand time and a remarkable opportunity for you to hear and to meet Yuyu. So I want to welcome you. Good morning.
Oh, thank you. Namaste.
Is this your first trip to Key West?
Yes, this is.
Wow.
First one.
Well, this is a pleasure then, and a treat to have you here. You have been the recipient of many accolades and awards and recognition for your work of poetry. You're also a noted translator, and have been notably the recipient of a Rockefeller grant and others to pursue and develop your work. And being from Nepal, I think it's important to understand the journey that you have made as an artist, as a poet, all the way from Nepal to the southernmost city in the United States. And you have traveled the entire world. Mm-hmm. So this is a first trip to Key West. But can you give us a little background, of course, on your homeland and your education and how you discovered the gift of poetry?
Well, talking about this visit to Key West, I think I'm reminded of Walt Whitman, who said, I am planting friendships thick as tree trunks along the river Mississippi. I think thanks to my friend Susan Kaiser, who invited me over, and think this is without Susan's initiative, I would not be here. I think this is what I do. We have been all over. I've been all over. I mean, this is how you meet people, and you come to different parts of the world. I am working at NYU. I'm the visiting poet at this spring for the NYU, and I had a reading there, and I did some teaching, and then I've been traveling all over the United States and to read from my books. So, but I'm very glad to be here at Key West because this reminds me of the Himalayas, the foothills, and there's a small town called Pokhara, which is a lake town. And most of my work is about the lake town and about the Annapurna, the ranges that are above that lake. So I'm very enthralled and very excited of being here, walking in the streets of Key West. I felt so much at home, and I was telling Suzanne how it's so very wonderful to feel that energy, which is so positive and which is so vital.
You mentioned, of course, that the Himalayas are, of course, our planet's most grandest of mountains, the highest elevations. And the lakeside, that's fresh water that comes off of the mountain.
True.
We are an island surrounded by salt water.
Yeah.
What is the distinction that comes to you between the fresh and the salt water?
I mean, this is what I see is that Annapurna, the Everest, the region, the Himalayas, is the lake is formed from the glaciers that melt and the foam, and there's a sea. So I see the wilderness of the sea compared with the Himalayas, which is as ferocious and as encompassing and as vital. So this wilderness of the sea is compared to the wilderness of the Himalayas. So I see a perfect place similar to Nepal, which is that I am at the foothills of the Himalayas and the foothills of the sea. So this is kind of a strange comparison. I was there for a brief supper last night on the beach. I mean, also the people, how they behave, and the tourist kind of the place and the whole tourist range. So it's very 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 exciting, and I'm feeling much at home here.
Well, we certainly are an embracing culture because of the nature of an island. We're always looking outward to see who is arriving, and our culture is a polyglot of many cultures. And despite our diminutive scale, a mere 2 by 4 miles, very densely populated, but in fact the population has not changed in almost 100 years. We've had about the same number of people with some ups and downs, but basically the same population level. Now it is spread out a little bit because we've built out most of the island with some exceptions around the salt ponds. in the Himalayas, was this the scale of the mountains gives you a view of the world, or does the world give you a view of the mountains?
Well, Nepal was closed till 1950s,
Yeah.
and there was nobody could come there because there were desperate rulers who wouldn't let anybody come. Even people weren't allowed to be educated. So, and then it opened up. So, and with the tourism, with the hippies coming there, and all the modern world entering and ushering into the traditional value system, with the tourism bringing new energy to the life, education, and also a lot of Nepalese soldiers, the Gurkhas, they go to get recruited in the British Army or Indian Army,
Indian, yeah.
and that helped. And that also the good part of that is that they came back and they brought education and they spread the whole knowledge of the other world. So in a way, this the mountain is similar to Key West. I see that Nepal was also closed, and then now we have the whole world coming up there because the world's highest mountain is there. And so I see a lot of comparison here, and this is very exciting. But this is, again, I was talking to Suzanne, and I was thinking, and Alex, how this thing it can be dangerous also to wipe out that centuries-old traditions and cultures, especially in Nepal, where people have lived for centuries without any outside invasion. But now with the senseless modernization and tourism, it can erode the value system. So the tourism has to be arranged and managed meaningfully so that it does not erode the entire system. So tourism without any control is a dangerous proposition. So I would rather see it as a boon, but then it has to be dealt with very carefully.
Well, you've certainly touched on a number of salient issues that affect us in this tourist town that has a rich culture of many nationalities and lands. But the West, of course, having been invaded basically by the Europeans and then settled, and now our entire planet has been, if not invaded, has been infused with a mix of all kinds of people that bring us all manner of awareness. And I think to the average individual, Nepal and the Himalayas, of course, hold a very, very special place because of its uniqueness, obviously, but also because of this almost mysterious and hidden culture for which, through the words and ideas of a poet such as yourself, we're able to examine it more authentically than just simply through a postcard or some visuals, some images. So when you address your audiences from all through this country and internationally, do you find a common curiosity, or is there something different about some people that they're more interested in different aspects of life in Nepal?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that strikes them, like most of the people don't know where Nepal is. Some
It's out there.
They think some thought it's in Latin America. And so I have to introduce my world and say this is the top of the world is there. Everest is there, yeah. And Everest again is not a Nepali name. Nepali name for Everest is Sagarmatha, which is Everest is a British name. And during colonial rule, when they tried to discover if Everest is the highest mountain in the world, they named it after the guy who was the chief at that time. So the Nepali name is Sagarmatha, which means forehead of the sky.
Forehead of the sky.
Which is very poetic. Yeah. And Tibetan name for Himalayas is Chomolungma, which means the mother of the winds of the world.
Chumalunga?
Chomolungma.
Okay.
Which means mother of the winds of the world, which is again very poetic. So, and also, it's very exotic in a way that it has been untouched and it has not been ever there. I mean, it's there, the whole existentialist issue, because it's there.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why we wanted to explore it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to continue our conversation with Yuyutsu Sharma, poet, translator, magician of words. Tonight, in a preview today of a presentation at the UU Church. Stay tuned for more here on KONK.
Are you ready for a change? I'm Adair Fritz. As a certified personal trainer, I assist individuals in creating a new vision of their lives. I use a gentle and kind approach towards an improved new outlook of life and living. Whether you want to be toned and trim or fit and agile, I can show you the way. I also specialize in restoring balance and mobility to victims of Parkinson's and accidents. Call me, Adair Fritz, at 305-394-4895. That's 305-394-4895 to get you started on a new path, a path towards vibrant, healthy living.
And we're back with Art Waves. I'm your host, Michael Shields, here on the KONK Broadcasting Network. Our studios at 402 Applewood Lane here in the heart of Old Town, Key West. The Royal Poincianas are blooming, I think somewhat early this year. Usually I don't seem to notice them until June or certainly July when they're in full blaze. But this past couple of weeks they have erupted and the sky is ablaze. The flowers, the frangipanis, the Royal Poincianas, the array of tropical color and fragrances that infuse our environment do lend itself to the poet within all of us, I think, because we are altered, we are touched, we breathe in. Some people have said that poetry really is about the breath, the inner breath that keeps us alive. Is that an apt description of poetry to your mind, that poetry informs us of our natural world, or is it purely intellectual?
In India, Nepal, and the whole subcontinent, we have this great oral tradition. You know, we have the centuries-old tradition of writing poetry. In fact, all of our scriptures were in poems. So we had oral traditions before. So people will chant the mantras and they will remember them by heart. And mantra is a breath unit. You're talking of breathing. So like mantra would be one breath unit. So if you, that's why it will connect you to the cosmos, and it will, less yoga and everything is about breathing. So they would have to decide. That's why they have a healing impact. You know, so I would like, let's say I recite mantra Om Bhurva Swa Tat Savitar Bharenyam Bhargo Devasya Dio Yon Parchodayat. So I said this in one breath. So the length of this is one breath.
One breath, yeah.
So because of the breath, and like Allen Ginsberg tried to imitate it and write poems of one breath with the harmonium. So he picked it up and tried to work on it. So the whole idea of breathing and the chanting and the mantras, and they never wrote those poems. So the disciples will remember them by heart, and they will pass on to the next generation. So the rich poetry tradition, and there was no authorship, so to say. So they will say, says Kabir or says Vyasa. So the pandits and the priests would come and write the verses and memorize them and add someone's name, an anonymous name or someone's name. So you didn't matter. The breath mattered, the breathing mattered. And also I was talking to Suzanne that how Himalayas, the Sanskrit name for the Himalayas is Devatatma, which in literal translation would mean a place where soul of the god lives. So and also a lot of breathing when you go up, you know, you need a lot of stamina, and also the whole idea of being in touch with the soul of the god.
So there's a real sacred relationship, as well as profane, that speaks not simply to an abstraction, but is part of our understanding of where we are in the world. I'm reminded, just backing up just slightly, about the tourist world, or the world of being a tourist. Huxley, Aldous, said at one time, there's a distinction between the traveler and the tourist. And the traveler looks to see what is out there. The tourist wants to already know before he goes. Like, okay, what am I supposed to see? It's in the guidebook, so I better find that. Whereas the traveler is much more of an explorer, a little more intrepid. In your writings, as a traveler, exploring this world, what is it you try to see?
Well,
Is that a fair question?
yeah, this is a very beautiful question, and because the travel motive is central to my work and to the works of my continent, because like Buddha or Krishna or Rama, in old times, the Himalayas is a place known for all the sages. When you have to seek penance, to come out and explore, so travel within yourself and or within out of yourself. You know, the journey within and outside. So you would come to the Himalayas. In Mahabharata, the great epic, there's a war between two clans, and when everybody's finished, they go up to the Himalayas and to seek penance, and one by one they die. So this has been like a great place to the journey motive is very crucial and very central to the Himalayan lore and Himalayan legends. And also we have, like you have Hemingway, we have Yeti. You know, so I see a lot of parallels in Key West and Himalayas, and this is just so very exciting.
Well, of course, mentioning Hemingway is the most noted author, a former resident, and his tour of duty almost here was by accident. He was on his way elsewhere.
Oh yeah.
He didn't intend to stay here. He just wanted to stop and was awaiting the delivery of a car. And while he was waiting for this car, another vehicle to take him still somewhere else, well, he fell in love with the island. Recently, in this week's Solaris Hill, A.B. Malloy, who's the director of a social agency here, guidance clinic, had a very beautiful piece that she wrote about I fell in love again and again and again, basically. And the tale closely mirrors that of Hemingway, of everyone who has come to the Keys at some point, at some level, where she fell in love and then had to leave. Fell in love and came back because she couldn't stay away. She had to keep coming back. She had to keep coming back. And that's a story that I hear repeated often. We find a place that nourishes us, and then we reach a point where we go, I have to get out of here. I got to go. I can't stay here any longer. For whatever the reasons, economic, social, relationships of all kinds. And so this island seems to attract people who are seeking something beyond just simply a holiday. That we take to a place that might give us a different view of the world. And yet, you, when you write in your books and through your readings, you take us to another world that is similar, I feel, that you fall in love with it, then you have to get away. Then you come back to it and you have to get away. Is that the cycle? Is there a cyclic nature to your work that you feel speaks to this?
It talks very importantly about my journey as a writer. When I used to teach at university before, and at Kathmandu University. So there, I got tired of it after a while, and I thought, because when you teach students, you pay a lot of attention and you spend a lot of your energy, and that same energy you would use in writing your own work. So at one stage I thought I would quit, and I resigned, and I went to this lakeside town. I started traveling, and then these boys somehow there, they said, go over, have a small trek. And I went into the Himalayas for the first time about 15 years ago, and I was so dazed and so very mesmerized by their beauty and by the whole thing that I've been going there every year, and I made them my home. So this travel image and the Himalayas has given me new breath and new life. And so this is very important, that they nourish me, they nourish my life, my poetic world, and I spread, and with their flavor, I've got wings now. I am flying all over the world with the message from the Himalayas. In Buddhist scriptures, you have these flags with the prayer mantras inscribed on them. The whole idea is that the mantras the winds of the world will come and spread the word of the mantras all over the world. So this spirit of that very spiritual flag, I think Himalayas has given my poems, my world, this energy and vitality that I can now fly all over the world and talk about them So my big namaste to these powerful mountains, this great world that nourishes me, and where the soul of the god lives.
Well, we're going to continue this traveling with my guest, Yuyutsu Sharma, who tonight will be giving a presentation and readings at the Unitarian Universalist Church at 7 o'clock. That's at the corner of Georgia and Petronia. So stay tuned for more here on the KONK Broadcasting Network.
Medic!
Has your website blown up? Need updating or tweaking? Forget expensive web design firms. Call on your web medic. Like a personal MD or a master mechanic, the medic can do just the job you need, but on a budget. Find out more at yourwebmedic.com or call 888-YW-MEDIC. That's 888-996-3342.
Hello, I'm Corey Held, Realtor with Preferred Properties in Key West. If you're a buyer or seller and are wondering what direction to take in this ever-challenging real estate market, you'll want my professional opinion. I have been consistently in the top 1% of realtors in the Keys. Contact me at 305-240-0355 or visit my website at www.coreyheldrealtor.com.
And we are back. I'm your host, Michael Shields, for Art Waves here in the KONK Broadcasting Network. My guest this morning, Yuyutsu Sharma, giving a presentation and readings tonight at the Unitarian Universalist Church at Georgia and Petronia Street at 7 o'clock. It's free. You are all welcome and invited to bring your friends for a most remarkable opportunity to meet Yuyu. And this morning we've been traveling from afar and traveling from near. And the ideas of flight and inner journeys, I think, are at the heart of many poets, to give us a window into the world for which we are not privy to on our normal, quote, normal days. And yet when we take time to pause and take time to really be in the natural world, such as Thoreau pointed out, if you want to know your mind, look to the sky. And here in your native land, Nepal, where the Himalayas are the ever-present reminder of our place in the world, where has that given you access, I say, to worlds that you would not have seen otherwise?
Yeah, I think this question has to go back. I was born in Punjab in India, and my father was from the mountains, so my mother was from lowlands. And since childhood, I would go to meet my father, and I had this tremendous desire to see and live in the mountains. And then after a while, I moved over to the mountains. But mountains are the places where you have elevation, and you rise above. In Sanskrit and all these scriptures, we have Parnassus, so mountains are higher levels of consciousness. Mm-hmm. So they give you also. That's why sages would go and stay in the mountains. And so this, and also when I was very small, I had this very big religious atmosphere in my family. My father was under the awe of these Naga sadhus, ascetics, mm-hmm. Those who put ash over their body and have dreadlocks, and mm-hmm. And the whole idea is to torture the body, mm-hmm. Because body is evil. Mm-hmm. It desires, it lusts, it mm-hmm. seeks. Mm-hmm. Whereas jewel is the soul, and soul is an obstacle to attain soul. Mm-hmm. So this whole, and at one point in my life, he almost donated me to one of the holy priests. Said, "Take this boy, it's yours." And luckily, this priest was very smart, and he said, "Well, no, this is a good boy. Send him to school." Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today. I would be somewhere in the Himalayan cave doing the sadhana or these meditations. And that would have almost altogether changed my life.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful to this holy man who sort of thought of this and sent me racing in the world to attain other parts of other journeys and other spiritual enlightenments. So this my life has been kind of enmeshed in these kind of struggles too, and also the quirks of fate that happened. And so when I go to Himalayas, it's all of a sudden I feel like fish in the water. You know, it's like you get your element, and so sages would go over all the scriptures, and even the Sanskrit poets would go to the Himalayas and write there. So Himalayas is a great place for meditation, and so that's how it works.
Well, I also wanted our listeners to know a little bit more about you. Of course, I pointed out at the introduction to the program this morning, you're a recipient of Rockefeller Foundation grant, but you also have 9 books of poetry that you've published. And incredibly, as I read part of your works here, a 900-page book with renowned German photographer Andreas Stimm, Space Cake, Amsterdam, and Other Poems from Europe and America. This is from the Howling Dog Press in Colorado. And the Annapurna poems in 2008 and reprinted this year as well. You have also brought out a translation of the Irish poet Cathal O'Sergai. Did I pronounce that right?
Cathal O'Sergai, yeah. Cathal O'Sergai is Irish. He's an Irish poet. He writes in Gaelic. So
Gaelic. Okay, I didn't get the Gaelic pronunciation
yeah.
correct.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm an Irishman.
Oh, you are? Oh, great.
Shields,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
In fact, my ancestors, I'm told, were the first poets to the kings of Ireland. I don't know how true that is. I could have just made that up. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good, though. And, but this is in Nepali in a bilingual collection entitled Kathmandu, Poems Selected and New, and a translation of the Hebrew poet Rani Somek's poetry in Nepali in a bilingual edition. And you've translated and edited several anthologies of contemporary Nepali poetry in English, launched a literary movement, Katya Kaya Kalpa,
Yes, that's right.
which means content metamorphosis in Nepali poetry. 2 books of poetry have just appeared in French and Spanish, respectively. Your work has been read and at several prestigious places, including the Poetry Café in London, the Seamus Heaney Center for Poetry in Belfast, NYU in New York, of course, the Kring in Amsterdam, P.E.N in Paris, Knox College in Illinois, Whittier College and the Yeats Center in Sligo, the Gustav Stressemann Institute in Bonn, and it just all over the world. You have been able to have audiences in many tongues and many ears and many ways of embracing your work, that you have a universal language, which is a gift and a real treat for audiences, that you can speak to them in their language, that even transcends the limits of our understandings. Now, you did bring some of your readings, and I hope that you will gift us with a selection of your choosing.
Sure.
I would love to hear some.
Oh, sure. I'd especially like to mention this big picture book that I do with the German photographer Andreas Stimm. It's a great book. It centers on 3 volumes, and 3 volumes on 3 different regions of Himalayas, Everest, Helambu, and Annapurna. And I met this poet when I was signing books in Frankfurt Book Fair. It's the biggest book fair in the world.
Yeah.
And this guy came up to me and said, I would like to read. He bought a book, and I signed the book. And then afterward, he said, I would like to use this for my photo exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to Nepal very often. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, okay. And then after a year, he brought this book out. And I was so surprised that I hadn't expected this big picture book to come with my poems. And it's a bilingual book in German and English. And over the years, we have been working together on these different regions, and we have brought these books out. And so this has been a great boon for me, because I could travel with this very expensive book, and I get a lot of royalties, and also with book signing. So the German publisher has been very instrumental in getting me my travels, and so this, and then there's Spanish, and the Spanish book came from Cordoba. And from Paris. So this has been going on in Slovenia and other parts of the world. Mm-hmm. Of course, like to read, like we have been talking about breathing, and I will read this poem, which has reference to Devatatma, the soul of the god. A poem is called Little Paradise Lodge, and this is my favorite poem.
Little Paradise Lost.
Yeah.
Little Paradise Lost.
Lodge. Yeah. Little Paradise Lodge. My pen frozen against the daggers of Annapurnas. On a blank, shapeless plank, chopped from a sandalwood tree trunk and used as a table, I place my elbows and hold my face in my hands. Blinding snows of the Annapurna ridge, mutually shining in the eye of my mind. I sit in the spacious courtyard of your little paradise lodge, deciphering shrill notes of birds in the mossy trees. One bird initiates a lilting note like our meeting, while others let loose a racket of breath vessels ending with question tags. Can I stay longer? At least one more day in your little paradise lodge. Two birds playing in the crimson cherry tree stir a chord that seems like opening up of the blossoms of our bodies. Would you take me away and marry me? But what about this electric whistle, this cicada's constant chirr, chirr, chirr? The struggle of our breathless bodies against the dark suit of the night, the pigeons strutting freely in your courtyard cool like exhausted porters climbing the mule paths in the singing gorges, their guttural quint quint qua, quint quint qua, quint quint qua. They seem to be using a human language, a kind of hushed speech robbers might use. Love, in the courtyard of your little paradise lodge, I see silence turning flowers into daggers. A herd of cows shuffles past me in a joyous mood, festive like young girls going to a hillside fair, saying, "Don't you go away, brother, don't you go away. We would be back until dusk with presents." A cuckoo passes overhead, is distinct caw, caw, caw. Please, please do not leave me alone. I'm utterly alone, stuck on the last mountain of the world. And beyond me, just one more mountain, where they say a deity lives, guarding a tiny turquoise lake. And thereafter, nothing but realm of melting snows, where souls of the gods live.
Oh, wow. That was just transformative.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
This is a small lodge near, up in the mountain when you go trek, and then I discovered it through some friend, and then we went up there, and I slept, and in the morning I woke up to see this huge paradise, so far snow behind me, and it was so exciting.
Yeah.
So it's very, very dramatic. The mountains are so dramatic and so very, it's not like I was in Alps recently. I mean, other mountains look very small and kind of compared to the Himalayas.
Yeah, they just don't hold up.
Because this is so very dramatic and everything is so wild. People die there. I mean, they're tigers and they're landslides and it's so very, very different. So much wilderness there. Mm-hmm. So which makes it more fearsome. And so this way, yeah.
Very good.
Shall I read?
Yes,
yeah.
Please.
I would like to read this poem, which is talks about my world, and especially because there are no roads in the mountains, and we do not have the mules carry the load and the porters who carry the load. So this poem about the suffering of those people who live there, who are trapped there in the great Himalayan
in servitude to the mountain.
To the mountains. Yeah. And as the tourists go, the new world is going and entering. So this is about that. It's called Mules. Mules. On the great Tibetan salt route, they meet me again, old forsaken friends. On their faces, fatigue of a drunken sleep. Their lives worn out, their legs twisted, shaking from carrying lustrous flags of bleeding ascents. Age-long bells clinging to them like festering wounds, beating notes of a slavery that modernism brings, cartoons of iceberg, mineral water bottles, solar heaters, Chinese tiles, tin cans, carom boards, sacks of rice, and iodized salt from the plains of Nepal Tarai. Butterflies of the terrace fields know their names, singing brooks, tempests of their breathless climbs. Traffic alert and time-tested, they climb, carrying dreams of past peacocks, pamphlets of a secret religious war, filth of an ecologist trial seaman, entire kitchen for a cocktail party at the base camp, defunct development agendas of guilty donors, the West's weird visions lusting for an instant purge. Stone steps of the mountains, embossed on their drugged brains like lines of a boated love, scratched on the historic rooks of the water spouts. Starry skies of the dozing valleys know the ache of their secret sweat. Sunny days along the crystal rivers taste of their bleeding eyes. And the greatest fiction of their struggling lives lost, like real mules clattering their hooves on the flagstones, encircling the cruel grandeur of bloodthirsty mule paths around the glaciers of Annapurnas.
Boy, that is an interesting contrast of the power of the mountain and man's almost futile attempts to prevail against the might of that mountain. Of course, the imagery is so rich. Who are the mules? You know, what are the mules? What are we carrying? What is the labors that we put on our own backs and our own souls? Wow.
Oh, thank you.
This is great.
Also, the Annapurna.
This is great. Folks, you've got to come tonight. I'm telling you, 7 o'clock. The Unitarian Universalist Church, 7 o'clock again, 7 p.m. Georgia and Petronia Streets. Let me shift a little bit here by asking you then, as you travel, and this is your first journey to Key West, I dare say it will not be your last.
Oh, yeah.
Because behind the walls of all of the homes in this lovely island, whenever you cited your poem, The Paradise Lodge, many times that describes the life on this paradisial isle, the southernmost city in the U.S., surrounded by water, connected by bridges and cultures. But behind that wall, behind the facade, behind the exterior, I'm always surprised. My heavens, I had no idea what was behind this. We somehow tend to believe that we may live all similar lives because of the appurtenances and all the baggage we carry with us. We all have electricity and running water, and we have furniture and such, and closets and chairs. But every home here reflects, of course, the personalities and the temperaments and the interests of the people who have brought their cultures from all around the world. So you see such a rich diversity of not only design, interiors, but because we are so in the world here, as opposed to being walled off like a suburbia or an urban grid, it does give us the sense that here in this island, as perhaps in many islands, but especially in this island, there's always the element of new discovery. Every time I go to a new home, I'm always, I didn't know this was here. This is beautiful. You know, the people's attention that they give to their world. They live outdoors. The doors are open. The windows are open. We live in the world as opposed to shut off from the world. Now, my question then for you is, as you travel all over this world, mountains to lowlands, from desert regions to tropical regions, are people's lives really so different no matter where they live? Or does their environment truly define not just how they live because of their clothing or their food, but are people so different, or is it possible that we really are, as we like to believe here, one human family?
Yeah. I mean, of course, this is that you are the landscape shapes the people, and landscape kind of defines their behavior, and to large extent kind of determines the fate. If you come to Nepal, you see the mountains define the language. It's so poetic and so very musical that if you talk to them, I mean, if you see two people talking, it looks like they're singing. Because the landscape in a big way makes the people or breaks the people. And I was talking to Suzanne. There's a friend of mine who came from India, and we were there, and he was listening to this radio commercial, and he said, "Oh God, what beautiful language you have," and this and that. And in fact, it was about a diarrhea, that children have. So the commercial was telling that you should give salt water and mix it with sugar and give it to the kid if he's suffering from a baby. So the whole the language itself is so musical because of the rivers that flow and the rain that comes. And the whole winds shifting through the landscape. So of course the landscape will shape the individual. But at the root level, we are human beings, and we have same blood and same kind of temper. But certainly the people in the mountains or people in certain parts, the whole tradition also develops, and the whole thing that also determines your fate. So it's both ways, and it's no. But certainly landscape, I would say, it shapes the destiny of a.
Yeah, your culture, your food, of course, how you live. Whether you must have heating oil, which we do not here.
Yeah,
Thank goodness. But what we do have is huge, warm hearts.
Oh.
So when we come back, more with my guest today, Yuyutsu Sharma, in preview of a presentation tonight at the Unitarian Universalist Church, 7 o'clock, Georgia and Petronia Street. So stay tuned. We'll be right back here in the KONK Broadcasting Network.
The best way to invest in your future is by investing in your education. Hodges University offers a bachelor's degree in management right on the Florida Keys Community College campus. This is an accelerated program that can be completed in as little as 1 year for qualified students. You can earn your degree by attending only one class session per week. Doesn't that sound like a good investment to you? If you already have your bachelor's degree, Hodges University also offers a master's degree in management at FKCC. This program is also in an accelerated format with live classes at Florida Keys Community College. Hodges also offers 14 degree programs totally online. Now is the perfect time to invest in your future, an investment that will last a lifetime. Call today at 305-295-8881. That's 305-295-8881. Or check out the Hodges website at hodges.edu. Invest in your future with Hodges University.
Set your path for a successful business career at Florida Keys Community College. FKCC offers an Associate in Applied Science and Business Administration, as well as a new certificate in entrepreneurship. Whether you plan to start your own business or enter the private or public sector, FKCC will provide you with essential training that will be useful throughout your business career. Learn more about the opportunities at your community college at fkcc.edu. Fall term begins August 22nd. FKCC, quality education close to home.
The Florida Keys Aqueduct Authority has a water supply portfolio that includes fresh water from the Biscayne Aquifer, desalinated brackish water from the Floridan Aquifer, water conservation, and reclaimed water from advanced wastewater treatment facilities. We even have seawater desalination available in the event of an emergency. Hurricane season is a great time to review your personal water portfolio. Make sure you have enough drinking water on hand for your family and your pets in the event of an emergency. 1 gallon per person per day is the minimum recommended amount. Visit fka.com for more information. Remember, Florida Keys water is precious. Taste it, don't waste.
And we're back with Art Waves. I'm your host, Michael Shields, here on the KONK Broadcasting Network. This is Art Waves, where we talk about the arts, its value, its contributions, how it informs, and how it forms our lives. My guest this morning, Yuyutsu Sharma, recipient of fellowships and grants from Rockefeller Foundation, the Ireland Literature Exchange, the Trubar Foundation, Slovenia, the Institute for the Translation of Hebrew Literature, and the Foundation for the Production and Translation of Dutch Literature. Distinguished poet and translator, author of 9 volumes of poetry, is giving a presentation tonight at the Unitarian Universalist Church, 7 o'clock. It's free. You're invited. Folks, you got to make this. This is certainly going to be a most memorable occasion, an opportunity for you to hear Yuyu as we talk about his writings. You have given us a glimpse into your world through your writings, and the theme of traveling and how similar we are, no matter where we live. Certainly our natural environment helps to shape us. And the idea of placemaking and the idea of creating our natural world, being in harmony with our natural world is very important. Earlier I cited Thoreau's dictum, to know one's mind, one must look to the sky. Is there one place, a refuge, a retreat, a place that you go to for that, to know one's mind?
Yeah, I think this every person has his own kind of special spot. Mine is Annapurna's. I go there all the time, and I think without that I would not be a perfect person. I mean, I wouldn't be what I am today. So yeah, it helps in a great deal to discover, your let's say your addiction. Like my tea is my addiction. It's when you're writing, like Hemingway had his own addiction. So I think it's very important for writers and artists to have their own addiction. I mean, I wouldn't say they go to other things, but at least you have a mild kind of thing that you do continuously. So I drink a lot of tea. So first time I came and I told Susan, I want some tea all the time. so she had this big list of all these bags, the tea bags, the whole array of Himalayan and herbal teas. So I think each writer has kind of obsession and some kind of fixation. I think that also is good in a way. Also, poets have this fixation with life and with the whole world. Like one of the Sufi poets, Bhakti poets, he says, if you want to be a poet, first put your house on fire and come with me and be a poet. I mean, denounce the world that you live and then be part of the other world. And in the other world, you have your other attractions and also it's a formidable job. Not everybody can be a poet or writer. It's a difficult job. You have to put your house on fire. You have to forget your own world. You have to forget the other world, and then come to the other level of consciousness. So, and writing poetry, especially in my part of the world, is more of a devotional, more of a religious kind of. It's not just going to a poetry jam or writing, getting published in a journal. It's like poets are revered. They're respected. Poets are bigger than anyone else in the world. But then poetry is taken as, you don't get paid for poetry. I mean, it's kind of thought as too elevated thing for a poet to ask for things. So I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to work on it, and so the people can get some. But poetry poets have been the heroes of our community, and so the Nepal especially is a nation born out of the breath of the poets, because before there was this poet called Bhanubhaktacharya who translated the Ramayana, the Hindu scripture, into epic, into Nepali, and that language is considered the standard language. It's on basis of that language that the kings of those times they united these scattered principalities and made one nation on the basis of the language. So had there not been a language, Nepal wouldn't exist. So these are the nations born out of the breath of the poets and translators. So I was in Slovenia and they were asking me, what do you think of Nepalese poetry traditions? I said, everybody is a poet there. If you go to it's like Ireland, you go, everyone is a poet. It's like you can have world poetry anywhere. So poetry is vital to my part of the world, and poetic traditions have shaped the destinies of these nations.
A question for you: you teach at NYU and elsewhere, I'm sure, but at NYU, the students, here we have 18 to 22, 23-year-olds, maybe a few years older. Are they any different than our American students, especially at NYU, one of our most esteemed universities? Are they any different than students at other universities around the world that you've taught? Yeah,
I was in NYU, and I'm the visiting poet this year, so I'm sent to all these disciplines. I was like in Stern School, and I was in education branch, and I was in creative writing. So I was doing these different, and the students are so good and so first rate. And I was in Ottawa, and I was teaching at a creative writing school there. And students, young people get very excited about my work, and because they like trekking and they like the mountains. Like, in fact, two of the young girls, my students, Alison and Rachel, they came to live with me from Stern School. They came and stayed with me in my house, and they became very good friends with my daughter, who's also young, same age. And so we three of us went to the trekking in the mountains. And so they are so excited, they want to come back there.
Sure.
So students really get excited, and they're so brilliant, and they're so very wonderful. And YU is a great university, and it's one of the world's, I think, best you can find there. And they have been very generous with me, inviting me over and getting all these readings for me. I was reading with Natasha Trekve, Pulitzer Award winner, at Lily Virian House, the creative writing, NYU creative writing house, and this has been a great tour, and I hope to continue this in a big way and bring and of course I've been teaching in Nepal, but now the teaching creative writing is entirely different. Mostly I talk about myself and my world, and students get so glued to it, and all of them want to come to Nepal, which is so exciting.
Yeah. Well, what can you tell, say, younger students that young children, they have the gift of music, they have the gift of song, they have the gift of play as they incarnate and they mature. And it seems that many times our very linear educational system seems to crush their spirits rather than elevate them, seems to repress rather than cultivate their imaginations. And where young children can, because of storytelling and their ear, what they see and what they hear when they're younger, seems much more in tune with the natural world, and then slowly they step away from it to pursue other interests, and our system might be, responsible in part for that. But what can you tell a parent with their child? What can they do most to give them that ear and that eye and that open heart for the gift of poetry and story?
Yeah, I think my world will probably inspire them to travel and go over the world, and also to seek their own world. And what I try to do when I talk about my journey, my story, how I discovered my element, how I became a writer. So I try to see what they are good at and how their mind works. And they will come to me afterwards with some poems or some writing or some stories. I met this very interesting, I was teaching at Sacramento State University, I was doing a workshop there. And this boy came to me after, he said, would you like to have, I was doing the workshop, and after a while he said, sir, would you like to have tea? He liked tea. As he asked, he went to Starbucks and got a tea for me. And afterwards he started talking to me, he said, well, I am in America. He was from Mexico, I think from Latin America. He was born here. But his father had returned, and he couldn't come back, and he was living with his mother. And he said he is trying to struggle. And he told his whole story, how it goes. He was an immigrant, and he didn't have any papers, stuff like that. Yeah. And now, after 3 years, he wrote back to me. He said, I've been admitted, I've got all the things, and I've been admitted to Michigan or some state university, and I am now, I am qualified to be everything, and so thanks to you. And I have written my book about my experience. I told him to go and deep into your world, and write all the experiences of your father crossing over, and your mother working here, and how. So it worked very well, that now this student has got bloomed into a great student, and he probably would be a good poet in the years to come.
Well, we're going to hear more, I feel, this evening at 7 o'clock at the Unitarian Universalist Church at Georgia and Petronia Streets. I want to thank you very much for being my guest this morning and invite everyone for this wonderful presentation this evening. Stay tuned for more here on Art Waves. I will return on Friday for Film on Friday. Again, I'm your host, Michael Shields, with Yuyutsu Sharma. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.